And joining me now from Golden Lake, Ontario, is retired Lieutenant General Christine Whitecross. Nice to see you.
Yes, it's great to be here, Rosemary.
So when you heard some of these allegations about some of your former colleagues and bosses come out in the news, what went through your mind?
Shock, anger, and counterintuitively, I was happy as well because then that meant people came forward, which had been a huge stumbling block since since probably forever, but certainly since the push in the late 90s and then again in 2015 to eradicate this insidious behavior. And you know, I mean, obviously I'm not going to speak about the allegations themselves because they need their day in court and they need their time as well. But you know, I was angry, and it's funny because people were calling me. I still mentor, even though I'm retired, and people were calling me and asking me, what do I have to think? And I said, well, you know what an opportunity we have right now. It's a watershed opportunity, and what we need to do is we need to get out there and start talking again. And this cannot be a taboo topic. We need to get the dialogue rolling, and we need to support the people that are coming forward.
Had you, without getting into the specifics, I understand you don't want to do that, but had you heard any of these things before in all your time in your positions?
No, in fact, I mean, I have to be honest, some of them just absolutely floored me. I was really surprised and kind of hurt as well.
We spoke in 2015. I remember the interview really well because you were given the task to examine this and also to try and, you know, diversify the military. And you said at the time that you had a lot of confidence in leadership, that they would help to make this happen. And I wonder what you think now.
So I have to be completely honest. I still have total faith in the leadership of the Canadian Armed Forces. Some of the allegations are old, which makes them still fundamentally important and need to be dealt with, and the investigations need to happen. But the reality is things have changed, I think, in the last 10 or 15 years, and we're moving forward. And the foundation work that we did back in 2015, I think, is still important. It still needs to be embraced, and we still need to be working on it. We have a lot more work to do.
The Sexual Misconduct Response Center was set up as sort of a first attempt to deal with some of these things, to help victims, survivors, and get through the allegations and the investigations. It now seems as though, while that was supposed to be away from the chain of command, clearly in some instances the chain of command interfered or knew too much about what was going on. Is it time now to set up an independent agency that is not reporting inside the chain of command?
So I've been reflecting on this as well. My first comment is I think it's time to re-look at the mandate of the SMRC, the Sexual Misconduct Response Center, re-look at the mandate and figure out where does it need to be in this in the future. So because I think we need to be adaptable and we need to be flexible and we need to learn not just from the behaviors of the past, but we need to learn from those that have been affected by the behaviors of the past. And if that means then, you know, a more independent agency, then, you know, I embrace bringing people in that understand it better than us.
But should that person then report to Parliament, for instance, so that it doesn't get caught up in, you know, I think a fear that a superior is going to do something to you to admonish you for the allegations? Should it be totally taken away from that part of it?
As far as I'm concerned, if it helps people report, if it helps to eradicate this behavior, I think we should look at every single opportunity, and that includes having people from the external helping us out.
When you hear people now criticizing Operation Honor, which you really took ownership of in the beginning, what do you say to them? If some now say, well, this clearly didn't work, it was a failure, what is your response to that?
Well, it's kind of sad to hear that, because if you probably remember from when we did the interviews back in 2015, everyone said, it's a generational change to do a culture change. It takes a generation. Generation is 15 years. The Canadian Armed Forces is a conservative organization, but at the best of times. Though we are adaptable and resilient in many ways, you know, structurally and organizationally, it's difficult to change that conservative culture.
Do you think that the government has handled this properly, the defense minister and the prime minister? I'm sure you've heard the stories that the defense minister pointed the ombudsman to official channels. Is that, to you, what government should be doing when it comes to how they manage the military or get involved in the military?
Well, I mean, the minister has responsibilities in the National Defense Act to oversee the CDS and the DM, the Chief of the Defense Staff, the Deputy Minister. I mean, I wasn't in the room. I have no idea what happened. And I'm not going to speculate because that would be wrong. But I think this is one of those, everyone needs to do their job and everyone needs to be a part of the solution. And we can't do it any other way.
Was there a moment for you where you experienced something like this that you now look back on and you think, oh, I should have complained about that. But I was scared, or I should have made an allegation, or did it never happen to you?
There were times in the mid part of my career where I did put in a complaint, and it was investigated. I may not have been particularly happy with the outcome, but it was investigated, and things happened from there. In the latter parts of my career, I have to be completely honest, and I think you and I spoke about this in the past. I spoke up for myself. I spoke up for other people. It took me 15, maybe 17 years to do that. But then again, I joined in 1982. I mean, we're talking 38 years of service. Mm-hmm. So, in my introspective that I talked about earlier, did I let things pass in the earlier stages of my career? Most probably.
What would you say to either women now considering a career in the military and they see what's happening and they shake their heads, they don't see how they can do it, or women who are reaching out to you, they're reaching out to me saying this has happened to me? What is your message to those women right now?
Well, to the second group, to the women who it has happened to, my comment is report it. Let's support you to do that. There are mechanisms to do that. And I think there's a misunderstanding within the chain of command, within many people in the Canadian Armed Forces on who they can talk to. And I think we need to educate them far better. I mean, there's more than just the SMRC and the MPs. There's mental health, there's padres, there's friends. I mean, there's more options than there had been in the past. So I encourage people to report. I cannot imagine how difficult that is. But I really have to give it to those people who have come forward. And then in the first group, I mean, I still maintain it's a great career.
Give me a sense of what morale is like right now, how people are feeling, because I can't imagine things are great right now inside.
Well, I think there's still anger, shock, probably a sense of betrayal. I think we need to get through this, but we need real strong leadership to do it. And we need folks to believe what we're saying. And we also need folks to know that we're not going to go back and sit on our laurels, that we're going to look at new and innovative ways of changing the culture and getting rid of this behavior. And I think that's the challenge of today. And back in 2015, I'm not entirely convinced that the people really thought the dialogue would help as much as it should. And I, like I said in a couple of minutes ago, I think this is a watershed moment and an opportunity that can't be missed.
Okay, retired Lieutenant General Christine Whitecross. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thanks, Rosemary.